Today, our guest speaker is Gašper. Gašper is going to be taking us on perfect data models with Power Query. The Excel and data analysis learning community is being powered by UrBizEdge, and UrBizEdge is a registered Microsoft Excel consulting, financial modeling, business intelligence, data analysis, and enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. They're also the developer of the Nigeria Financial Markets Analyst tool, which is available on the Microsoft Office store. So these are the training for the upcoming training calendar, where you can learn about financial modeling, Python, Excel, and Power BI. So our today's guest speaker is Gašper, and Gašper has been a Microsoft MVP for Excel since 2016. He's also the owner and the lead author of Excel Unplugged, and he enjoys helping people, and also enjoys working in Excel by helping people learn how to master using Excel. He's also been the speaker for like 50 plus international conference, and also a trainer with 900 plus courses with 7,000 attendees. He's also the lead of the Slovenia Power BI user group and the organizer of the Excel Olympics conference. Hello, Gašper.
Hey. Hello, everyone.
So over to you, sir.
Okay, so I start sharing my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, you can share.
Okay. Okay. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to this session that will kind of be a hybrid of two sessions. So on our quest to create a perfect data model, and I'll show you why it is perfect. This session will mostly be about what techniques we used in Power Query to do that. So this will kind of be how Power Query can help you on your quest for a perfect data model. So that's the basis of this. But we will, in doing that, first create a data model and then in the end create a perfect data model. I will be using a single Excel file for all of this, and I will paste the link in the chat right now. So this is the link where you can go and get the file that I'll be using. It's a simple Excel file. I think it has, I don't know how many tables it has, but it has, let me just, so it's this one. So this is the Excel file that I'll be using. Basically, each sheet holds a single table. We have two fact tables, one for actual, one for plan or budget. And we have 4 dimension tables, one that's missing. It's the calendar table, but we're going to add that later on. Okay, so basically, our next slide, there's nothing new to say, right? Oh, maybe this, because people are disappointed if I don't say it. So I come from a country that is the only country in the world that has the word love in the name, and that is Slovenia. But either way, I'm an Excel MVP and I speak a lot, apparently. So I also have an Excel Olympics newsletter, which you're all going to sign to, and I have the Excel Olympics YouTube channel where I dabble in Excel and Power BI. And now to start off, I'm just going to show you this slide. This slide has always been a hit. So whereas this slide, most people look at this and they say, wow, you know, in awe of wow. What they basically should say is, oh my God, no way. And, you know, this is a screenshot from Power BI. It doesn't really matter because we're going to do it in Excel. Obviously, this is the whole AdventureWorks thing, so we're not going to do that. But what I would say here is, you know, just because you can, it doesn't mean you should, would be my comment of this. So there's lots of things that you can do in data modeling, right? Maybe a bit more in Power BI than you can in Excel. So, you know, the both-sided connections and things like that. kind of simulating many-to-many things, and those are more Power BI than Excel. But basically, there's also one thing that will always be in the back of our minds while we do things today. But I will not emphasize it. I will not show you, the results in like the data model analyzer tool or anything. I will not show you results of the quickness or the workings of the model, but that is what will be in the back of our mind. So everything we do will go towards a single goal, to have a lean, fast, effective model that you can easily scale, that you can easily translate, into other needs. And in doing that, Power Query will be one tool that we're going to use, and that will be sort of the final emphasis that we're going to do. Okay, and from here on out, that will be my single slide, the scary one. And from here on out, it's mostly going to be just demo. So I'm going to start off with a single empty Excel file, right? That's the way we usually start off. And let me just create a new one for later. But now we're going to use this one. And basically, this first part, it's going to go extremely fast. And the reason it's going to go extremely fast is because this is how everybody does it. And it's not the perfect data model. And it's not what you should strive towards. And it's also not our end goal. Okay, so what I'll do is this. I'm going to start off by simply saying get data, right? I'm still going to use Power Query, but for this first part, I'm actually going to use minimum of Power Query, the true smallest amount. And let me just grab this path so we'll be able to get to it faster. Oh, and I changed it in the beginning. There it is. I changed that part. So we go way down. There it is. So this is the file that we're going to use. And let me just copy this for later on, because we're going to use it multiple times. There it is. Okay, so this is the file that we're going to be using. And that is brilliant. That's because I was trying to be a kind man and show you the file previously, and then I changed something and now it doesn't know what it's doing. Let me just go again. Okay, so I will connect to the file and I'm basically going to grab all of those tables, right? I could have gone for the sheets themselves, but I'm going to grab the tables, all of them. And basically, as I said, we got the actual, we got the plan. Those are our two fact tables, and everything else is just a simple dimension. And I'm just going to basically do a load to. So I'm not going to change anything, but I am going to load it to the data model, right? So I'm not going to load it to Excel. I'm going to load it straight to the data model. And data model, that translates to Power Pivot. And if I now, this is going to be one of those days, it seems. So let me just shoot up Power Query to see what happens. Okay, nothing special, everything should work. Let me just refresh everything, or maybe let me see if my Power Pivot is still online. Seems to be. So if I now refresh everything, just doesn't want to. What does it say? Let's start with a new file. And right now I'm trying to show you the bad model, so imagine what's going to happen later on. So let's go again. Now there is a possibility that my Excel has slight issues with regions, because I just came from Macedonia and I had regional settings set to that. So it could be that there are things just bugging him. We'll see. Yeah, we're just going to change this because it doesn't matter if I was doing it in Excel or if I was doing it in Power BI, it would be totally the same. So we're going to switch to Power BI, which I didn't change. So that one will work right out of the box. But as far as data modeling goes, at least the things that we will use, it's the same thing. Okay, so we're going to grab from an Excel workbook, and it will be the same one. So it will be this one. And we're going to grab all of these and basically just load. We're not even going to change them in any way. And since I had the auto create connections turned on, we already have more or less everything done, right? Now, mind you, this is kind of a perfect example. Usually it doesn't go that smooth in your data, right? If you have the data warehouse where it's done properly, where you have the names done properly and all that, then it goes kind of smoothly, but usually it doesn't go this smooth. But either way, this is kind of, this is kind of what you get, right? And basically, I'm just one table short of a, perfect thing, and that table would be calendar. And I'm just going to do it now in Power Query so I can use it later on. In Power Pivot, that would be easier, but over here, I'm going to do it in Power Query. So I'm going to go back to Power Query, and I'm just going to grab everything from the actual. So I'm going to duplicate this one. I only need the date, remove everything else, and bring all the dates to the first date of the year. Remove all the duplicates, right? So we work with the least data we can. And then I'm going to duplicate this column, and this next one, I'm going to bring to the end of the year. Right? So here's what I got. And basically what I also have now on screen are my start and end dates. This is my start date. This is my end date. I just need to kind of get to them. And the way I'm going to get to them is I'm going to grab both of these. I'm going to turn the data type to a whole number, which dates are, right? Just like in Excel. And then more or less, I'm going to go for the minimum of this one. And basically, let's just do this. Oh, I don't even need to rename it. Let's just go transform. And from this, I need the minimum. I'm going to call this min date. And then I'm just going to grab this, create a new blank step, and basically change two things. Instead of min, I want the max, and instead of date, I will take date 2, right? I'm still using the change data step. So I'm going to this step. Now, the first one said go to the date column, get the minimum. And the second one that I just created said go to the date 2 and get the maximum, right? And that is this one. And this one I'm going to rename to max date. And now what we basically do is we create a list from min date all the way to max date, like this. We turn that to a table. We call that column date. And we make sure that Power BI actually knows that is a date, right? And now we get the smallest date, maximum date, and all the dates in between as calendar should be. And now we're just going to add columns, and we're going to say, first off, I need the year. Second off, I need the month. And then let's just do a month name. And with the month name, since I'll be using it in visuals, right, I'm going to change that at least a little bit. So I'm going to change that in a sense of, I'm going to transform it to use uppercase and to just use the first 3 characters. It's now in Slovenian, so that will be better. Okay, so that's month number, that's month name, and you know what, I'm just gonna stop there. So there's a lot to the calendar table. I could have gone, you know, way beyond this, but this is enough for what I'm trying to do or for what I'm trying to show you today. So this will be my calendar. Let me just grab the code from this. So let me just grab this and copy it to my notepad so I'll be able to use it later on for the second one. Okay, so this I now load into my data model. So I add the calendar table to my data model. There it is. And now I can connect it, right, to both fact tables. So the actual and plan, and they both have a date, and this one also has a date. So that's what we connect them by. Okay, there it is. So 2 fact tables and this. And now if I start creating something from this, right? My first report would probably be, you know, because in my actual, I have revenue, I have costs, and I have gross profit. And in my plan, I also have revenue, cost, and gross profit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on revenue. I'm just going to try and do revenue the right way. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, so I'm going to focus on revenue. The first thing I need the actual revenue. So I'm just going to do 3 things up front. The first one will be in my calendar table. I need my month to be sorted by month number, right? Because otherwise it will just sort alphabetically. And then, because I'm sort of going to go all the way, I'm going to go to year to date, I'm going to go to everything. I would kind of need over here a year slicer. So let me just do that. It will be a simple drop down with a single year selected. And then I'm going to do a simple table of month name. So the sorting is okay. Let me make everything in there bigger. So let's go for 16 at least. And let's go values. Okay. So now we come to the, you know, the essence of the modeling, and that is we're going to write our measures. Now, the first one, you know, as simple as it gets, sum of the revenue, right? So I'm going to go into actual. I'm going to go, I need a new measure, right? And this measure is going to be a simple, let's call it total revenue. And it doesn't get more simple than this. So it's a sum of actual revenue. That's it, right? That is my measure. I place it in my visual, and now I have, right, total revenue by month. But what if I wanted to have that year to date, right? Well, no problem. I just create a new measure, which would be total revenue year to date, right? And that would be a calculate of what? Of total revenue. How? Well, dates YTD, right? Nothing special there. So a simple, whoa, where did that go? So let me just type it, calendar date, right? That's what I need. This. And this now creates a year-to-date measure, right? Sometimes I want to watch it like this. Sometimes I want to watch it like this. Because usually if I look at things monthly and I compare things, let's say to previous year or to plan, right? I can see something is up, something is down, and it doesn't show the whole picture, but year-to-date really does, because you can see, oh, okay, taking it all in, we're that much above, right? So year-to-date, an important one. Next one, previous year, right? You always need to, well, in Corona times that sort of fails, but comparison to the previous period is always important. So let's create a new measure, and this one will be total revenue previous year, right? And again, kind of basic. So a calculate of what? Well, a calculate of total revenue, but how? Well, by date add calendar date. I need you to add -1, sorry for that, on the year level, right? So when calculating this total revenue, I want you to add or actually subtract 1 year, right? So basically this is my 2017 and this is my 2016, right? And now do you see that I need to kind of do the same on this one, right? So I go new measure, total revenue YTD PY. And again, a simple calculate of total revenue YTD. How? Well, again, same thing. Date add on the calendar date. You go -1 on the year. There it is, like this. All right, so this is now 2016 year to date, right? And then for the final thing that we're going to do here, and then we're going to wave our hands around a bit, just so we kind of get a feeling of what is great and what is maybe not so great in what we did. So the last thing that I want to do is, of course, I want to compare this to previous year. That's important. But more or less, I need to compare this to my plan, right? So here's my plan. Now I create a measure, which will be revenue plan. And that will be, again, that's the base measure, right? So that's the easy one. So plan revenue, that's it. We throw that in. And the next one that I need would be my revenue plan year to date. So let's go to that one, new measure, and revenue plan YTD, and that is calculate of revenue plan by doing dates YTD on calendar date. There it is. Okay, so with this, right, we now have pretty much revenue covered, right? Why? Well, because, you know, I got all the calculations in this one and this one done, at least the important ones for me at this point. And I can now slice it and dice it by anything I wanted to, right? Because I have my dimensions. So with this, I pretty much got revenue covered. But here's the problem. That's just one of the KPIs in my data. So if I now look at the actual, right? That's just this column. I still have cost and I still have gross profit to deal with. So basically, just for revenue, I just wrote 6 measures, 6. Without taking it into account that this the table that I'm showing you now is really not a good table. It doesn't show you things the way it should. So I would still need, and probably even more important than the simple, total revenue versus total revenue previous year, right? The more important thing would be what's the difference and what's the percentage point difference within those. Right? So I'm so far away from even handling revenue to have all my reports that I want to done, but I'm already 6 measures in. And if I know that I still need to do this for, so in this, I still need to do the difference, the percentage point difference for each comparison. So that will be total revenue versus PY 2, total revenue, versus PY, total revenue versus plan, 2 more. So that's 4. And then 4 more for year to date calculations. Right, so that's 10 already. Just handling revenue, but now I have cost, so that's 10 more. And then I have gross profit, that's 10 more. And then, I could also go into different things, but basically, whereas the model is fine, it works, it's so far away from being a perfect thing, right? And then also, every time I create something like this, I'm actually now filtering on 2 tables all the time, right? So doing it this way, it's, okay, it's vanilla, but it's what everyone does. Everyone does it like this. This is sort of the, the basis of it. Well, but if you're going to ask anyone who's, gone through the motions and particularly if they ever did some analysis services, OLAP things for Excel or anything like that, they're going to tell you about this star schemas and Snowflake schemas, right? And they're going to tell you, well, this is not good. This is not a star schema. But like if I just take this one and I show you all the dimensions around it, right? So this is a star schema, but then I also have this one, and basically sometimes you even have dimensions of dimensions and so on and so forth. So a snowflake is what you end up with usually, but star schema is something you should, drive towards. So with everything that we've done, we're now going to start from scratch again, right? But we're going to keep one thing in mind. I'm going to do some crazy stuff in between, and I'm going to tell you why every time, right? So I'm going to tell you why I did those things, and you'll be able to appreciate it in the end. We're going to see the result. When you're going to see the result, you're going to see why I did all those things. And then we're going to, wave our hands again. So now we're just going to start again with a new blank Power BI desktop file. As soon as, well, I can actually save this one if I'm going to share the files later with you. So this is our, okay. So, okay. So this is our first one. Let's just call this the way everybody does it. And now let's do it a new way, right? So I'm going to go into Excel again. And let me just grab that. Oh, it's already here. Cool. So I don't need the path. I'm going to take the same files, nothing fancy there. But this time I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to do some transformations. And the first transformation I'm going to do will be this. I'm going to say, I have my actual and I have my plan, right? So those are 2 fact tables. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to append them. In a sense, I'm going to create a single fact table. Every time you do that, you should have a column, which by some miracle I already do, a column called scenario, where you know which table the information came from, right? Because once this is a huge table, I need that piece of information. So I have my plan. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take the actual and the plan and just append them. So I'm going to append as new so we don't, you know, if I needed to change something only in one or only in the other, this is always a good way to go. So I'm going to create my append. I'm going to call this fact sales, or actually just F sales. And then these two actual, I'm not going to load. So I'm not going to load the actual. I'm not going to load the plan, right? Now, another thing I'm going to do with this, and this is where it gets kind of crazy, is I'm going to do this. I'm going to select each and every column except for my KPIs. And keep in mind, at this point, I could have, you know, 20 KPIs. I could have 40. I could have 60. It doesn't matter. I'm going to select everything except for the KPIs. Now, 3 things I need to point out here. KPIs, they're not all additive. So if they're not additive, you need an extra column. Maybe I'll just spend 2 or 3 seconds later on explaining what I meant by that. But right now I'm going to do this. I'm going to select all of these columns without my KPIs, go right click and simply say unpivot other columns. So those that are not selected, I want you to unpivot them. And what I'm going to get, regardless of if I had 60 of them or 3, I'm going to get 2 columns. The first one will say attribute, and that will be the column name. And the second one will say value, right? So unpivot, and this is what I get, attribute and value. Now the attribute is actually a KPI, right? And value is now the value of that column. All good. Let me just check the comments. There's a Superman flying there, so that's cool. Okay, so we have KPI, we have the value. And now I'm going to do another thing because I still need to do the calendar. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually not going to base it on actual. I'm going to base it on fact sales. So I'm going to duplicate this one now, but I'm not going to do everything again. So I'm just going to go something like this and see if there's anything that I need to change. So I got this, I got that. Let me put this here. This needs a comma, and now I got rename column twice. So let me do 1 here. Let me do an 11 here and an 11 here. And that's cool. That's cool. Everything else will work. And now I just need to tell it that this, what it should be starting with. So over here, you have this. And I can already see the biggest problem we're going to have. It's going to be this. You know what? I'm just going to remove this one. We don't really need this whole thing to happen. And in this, let me just copy this again. So instead of that, I want you to start with this. And more or less, this should be our calendar. Right, but now derived from both tables appended. So there is some value to this. There's some extra value to this in a sense of starting with just the actual table, right? And as soon as it finishes, we're going to call this calendar. There it is. It did stuff. Yeah, it looks fine. So I'm just going to load it. I'm not going to let it run twice. I'm going to let it run here, and that's it. right? Because the F sales now, it needs to do stuff. It needs to do lots of stuff. Okay, so now I have my model, and there's already a difference between the before and the after pictures. So this is the after, right? This is our model. And if I now show you the model, right, you will see that it doesn't quite look the same as that one did. Right? My model is now a star schema, which is always a good thing. Now, what's not always a good thing is the unpivot command, but more on that later. But having a star schema, that is the way to go, right? That is the way to go if you want your everything to work fast, to work smooth, and to be easily upgradable also. So this, we were striving for this, and now we have it. And now let's see how this changes. Well, let's see how this changes everything. And I'm just going to go and grab one more thing from my magical browser. So I need my Zebra BI license key. There it is. Let me paste it into my notepad. There it is. Okay. And now let me start. And I'm actually going to do two things at the same time. So the first thing I want is, okay, now I'm going to start writing my measures. Right? But what I want is really a measure that can be many things. Now, having said that, if I just did this, if I now went totally the same as before, if I now went calendar, oh, and there's one thing I didn't do. Did anyone write it in the comments? No one wrote it in the comments. Oh my God. So I didn't say that this one should be sorted by this one. Okay, so if I now have a year and that is my slicer, it will be a drop down. So a single year is selected. And then I create my, see, yeah, that will be easier. And then I go my month name, right, which will sort correctly now. If I now just did the plain old, right, and let's put it where it belongs. So let's go to my sales and let's write a measure that will be actual. And this time I can just call it actual, right? I'll go equals sum of a single column, and that is, right, there it is, value. Right? This is now my actual. It looks kind of funny, doesn't it? But that is just because this single measure can now be 3 different measures, because over here I have my KPI. If I now change this KPI into a slicer, I now have, now do this, now do this, now do this, right? So this is a single measure that now does 3 measures. But now let's take it a step onwards. Let's enter some data, and it will be one of those disconnected slicer things. And I'm going to add ID and calculation. ID will be 1 and 2. Calculation will be monthly and year to date. Don't need the third one. Remove it, and I'll call this calc. I'm just going to load it, and I will actually check so that it didn't connect it to anything. It didn't. And now I'm going to create a slicer from this. And it will be one of those unicorn slicers, which are going horizontal, so they're buttons. Right, there they are. So now I have a way to switch from monthly to year to date. It does nothing right now, but if I wanted to, I could go to my actual and I could say, okay, so listen, I want you to do a switch kind of thing. Right, so this will be a switch. Let me just make that bigger for you. So I want you to do a switch. I want you to do a switch on a min of calc ID. Right, that's the ID we had. And what this does is if somebody now selects monthly, the min will return 1. And after this, I'm just going to say, cool, now do this. If the min of ID is 1, I want you to calculate sum of values, just as you did before. But if that one says 2, now I want you to do something else. Now I want you to calculate. Again, it will be a sum of value, but this time calculate it as if it's year to date. So let me just go to my calendar, date, there it is. So I close down this, I close down calculate, and then I close down switch, right? And with just this simple arrangement in my single table, I now have a way to do monthly, year to date, right? And to do that by every measure, there's just one problem. And the problem is this. If I look at these numbers, they're actually big. And the reason is this actual, it's now just saying, go to the fact sales and do a sum of value. Well, but that's not actual. That is now actual and plan. So I need to somehow take this and just go in here and say, yeah, do that. I want you to calculate exactly that. So calculate this, but with an addition of scenario equals AC, right? And now I really have my actuals. This is the revenue. This is what we were looking at before, monthly or year to date. A single measure that now does 3, 6, 6. So instead of 6 measures from before, a single measure, right? Previous year. Well, previous year, it doesn't get easier than this. Previous year is now A, calculate. I want you to calculate actual, but here's what I want you to imagine. Imagine you're actually 1 year back, right? Same as we did before. So it's calendar date -1 on the year. Close that one, and there it is. Previous year, done. Right? But this is a previous year for everything. It already does year to date because that is in the actual, and it already does all of these. And now I need to do the plan, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the actual, more or less copy it, because if we think about it, how different will the plan be? Well, this is going to say PL, and this is going to say PL. Everything else is the same thing. And with these 3 measures, right, I now have everything I need. There it is. Right? Mind's blown. Don't see it, but okay. So do you see why this is the perfect data model? With 3 measures, I did everything I did before with, how many did we say, 30 or 60, right? And now let me show you why, even in this situation, why sometimes visuals really matter. And I'm just gonna grab, because remember before I told you, sometimes you do all this and then you need to calculate the differences and the percentage points and all that. So I'm gonna grab the best visuals out there, at least for financial, and that's Zebra BI. And I'm going to go for Zebra BI chart. I'm going to add it to my model, and more or less, I'm going to change this little thing into a Zebra BI chart. And this is where I need my license key. And let me just see. There it is. There it is. I did it so fast, no one was able to see it. There it is. I'm not going to go to this one. I'm going to go to this one. And here it is. Monthly, year to date on each and every KPI with values, difference to plan percentage points, difference to previous year percentage points, and I can also see right here where my plan and percentage points are, right? A single pager, a single report that does everything that before we talked about. We would need 6 reports, 60 measures, everything done. Right? That's the idea, and that is why a perfect star schema or a perfect data model does a lot, really does a lot, right? Okay, now having said that, let's just, I don't think there's really, much explanation needed for why this is much better than what we did before. I don't think that's needed. But I will, however, throw out a few, but watch out. So the first one would be this. The main thing that we did, or actually, I think I even have it on the slides. Let me see if I have it on the slides. So so this is what we were striving towards, right? The perfect model, and here's what were the key 2 things. It was these 2. It was the append and it was the unpivot. Those were our main 2 things that we did to get from our previous data model to a star schema, right? And those are all, so let me see if I have, okay, I have just what we did, okay. So the Q&A comes later. And let me now go back to this. So the magic here is maybe within those measures also, right? Because measures are cool. But most of the magic is actually in here in Power Query. And the 2 things that are, the most magical things that we did here, okay, we did the calendar, but that doesn't, well, it is magical, but it's not the most magical. So the 2 most magical things were our append and the second one, unpivot, right? And now here we come to, Power BI or Excel. If you want to do it right, you will need to use Power Query. That is my honest opinion. You will need Power Query. But now the problem is, I just did this on tables that are fairly small. Usually if you have transactional data, so every day I'm going to write like 30,000 rows or 5,000 or whatever. The unpivot, that's not something that goes by easy, right? And that is what affects your refresh of the model. That is what affects everything. So what you should be thinking is, if I have a small and lean data set, which is, tables are small, not just like this, but also like this, then this is the way to go. This is actually also a way to make them smaller like this, which is always a good thing, right? And everything that you're adding in your append is just a single column of scenario. And if you think about it, scenario, because every column in the X velocity engine, which would be your Power Pivot, just sort of takes up space by the number of unique values And in my case, I only have 2, so that is the smallest column in there almost, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if I do all this in Power Query and it's a big model, I actually have a problem. I have a problem with refreshing. I have a problem with, I need a big machine, lots of RAM, a big processing power, and that is not always available, right? And sometimes even that is not, you know, because it is a big thing. So this is where you being kind of friendly with someone that does your data, that manages your data warehouse, that can create a data mart for you, is extremely important, right? And this is where you start thinking about, oh, I know what you need to do. I could also do it in Power Query, but if I do it in Power Query, it's going to take so much, you know, processing power. Whereas if you do it on SQL, where you know, it's made for that, and I just pull it in, that's a cool thing. But it's a thinking game that you also need to, you know, go through, right? I need to do this. Now, where am I going to do it? Is it a big thing? Then let's do it over there. Is it a small thing? I'll just do it in Power Query. And then, as you can see, I have a perfect data model. Okay, so now you're actually gonna see this Q&A slide, and let's start with the questions.
Wow, it's been very interesting. So question time, if you want to help us check if questions are lined up for. I have a funny question, Gašper. I noticed at the lower left corner of your Power BI, it's saying updates.
Yeah.
Any reasons you don't want to update the Power BI?
No, it's not that. It's that I have a training session coming up actually next month in a company that still has March Power BI desktop. And there have been some changes done that I really don't want to, you know, I don't want to take a different Power BI desktop to them. So that is why I'm not updating. And this is not my production machine. This is my more or less a speaking machine. On my production machine, I always have it up to date because those, you know, those beta features, I love them. I use them all the time.
I think some people are putting stuff in the chat box.
Yeah, I can see. So for everyone that says thank you, thank you. I even have a slide that says thank you in Slovenian. That is hvala.
Would like to see.
And then before we go to the questions, I also, if anyone wants to reach out to me, so you can do that most easily on LinkedIn. So you can reach me on LinkedIn. You can also reach me via email if you have questions on this session. And some of the things I even have explained on my YouTube channel, so you can just look at that one. Okay, and now go back to questions.
Okay, how do we pronounce the thank you? I don't want to pronounce it wrongly.
You mean in Slovenian?
Yes.
This, you do hvala.
Hvala.
Yeah. So how do you guys say thank you?
Okay, so that's the problem because we have like 10 languages here. But like,
really?
I can tell you how to say it in my language. So that one is ESE. So Eshe. Spelled ESE.
Cool. Okay. So let me see, because I saw a question up there. If I wanted to see columns, revenue, cost, and profit next to each other. Oh yeah, that would be a simple. Now in this model, I'm guessing you're asking for this model. So I'm not going to destroy this one because it's too pretty, but I'm just going to duplicate it. So we'll have everything set up. And if I did this, right, once I had this, instead of me doing the KPI up here, I now create a matrix and I bring the KPI down here, right? And at this point, I have my cost, gross profit, revenue next to each other. Because it's like a dimension. It sort of acts like a dimension on that level. But check it out. If I wanted to do it with Zebra BI, that would be even way cooler, because what I would have are small multiples. So I could bring that one out, just do the KPI, where is it? And bring it in here. Now that is why we use Zebra BI. You know, because small multiples do matter, because they're on the same axis, and you know, it matters. Okay, so that's that one, and then
maybe I can sneak in a question. Hi. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
If I ain't gone, I'll ask my own later.
Okay, so one question was, how do you remember what we learned at the time of application? I'm not quite sure what the person meant, but how do you remember what we learned at the time of application?
Okay. How to remember what we learned at the time.
Oh, so the video is available, and under the video, that's why I also left the Excel sheets, which I will attach as a description under the video, so you can always go back and watch the video and practice along as this.
Yeah. So if anyone tried to follow along, I'm really sorry, but that was not that session. If this was a follow along session, it would take 4 hours. This was definitely not a follow along session, but you got the link and you will have the video, and that is where you follow along. It really was. It wasn't a follow along session, and really sorry to those who tried. And if anyone did, you know, hands down, brilliant.
I want to just quickly sneak in these. There's something I'm working on that we were using Zebra BI, and I had a small issue. Maybe you might know what it is we should have done, where the scale. So I have, just like you have revenue now, say revenues are in the millions, then let's say gross profit are in the low thousands, right? So that scaling made the gross profit really not look cool. So they were like, is there a way we could have let the scale not?
Yeah, but it's not. So did you see that they put out the cards? Zebra BI cards. Did you see that?
I don't know which one we used, but it was Zebra. I don't know if it was the cards or, but it looked.
No, I'm thinking you didn't use the cards, because cards are the latest of the bunch. Now this one is great because what it gives you, and I like it just because of that. It gives you a kind of a,
wow.
Each thing is its own thing. So this one can be this, and then on this one, I could also say, and this one should show this differently, right? So on each and every one of the cards, I could change it how it looks, right? I could change what it says, where it says it, and this is where I would go, okay, if this one is really in millions, then I would go to cards, because these would already be like, you see, this is millions, whereas this one is thousands now, right? Because now each one is just its own kind of thing. So I would go for cards if you're thinking on that. And I can just see why I can't change anything. So let me see here. Pep. I hope I still have it in here. Yes. And now, let me see if I can show you this. So if I go here, do you see I have really on everything, right? The units, I could go, this should be billions, right? But no, I'm not going to go billions, but let's go thousands with, 3 decimals. And then I'll go back, and now you see that is just this one, right? Yeah. All the others still remained as they were before. So you can really have individual, edit them individually and just make them, they're as customizable as you wish.
Oh. Thanks a lot. Anybody have a question or you want to speak? If you want to say something, just indicate with a raise of hand. So if I think we can at this point also start asking Gaspar the questions we normally ask every special guest.
Oh, really?
So the first question is just for you to give us maybe a brief. How did you get started in data analytics, Excel, Power BI? Like, how did you get started?
Okay, so I probably started the wrong way. Because looking at it today, I think it was sort of the wrong way. So the way I started is I was studying mathematics in college in Ljubljana, and because it was the closest thing, I went to a company that was literally across the street. And what I did there, I was an assistant in their training courses of Excel and other Office products. Now, why that was a cool thing is I really got a broad spectrum doing the courses, right? That is when I realized there's Microsoft Project, there's Microsoft OneNote, right? It's not just Word and PowerPoint and Excel. So I really got some broad perspective there, but the problem is I fell into the trap that lots and lots of trainers fall into, and that is I started training Excel without ever working in Excel, if you know what I mean. So I went to, I'll never forget this. It was my second year probably of doing Excel. And I really, I loved it. Mathematics, right? You love it. You do everything in it. I thought I was brilliant in it at that point. Today, I know I wasn't. But I really knew lots of stuff in Excel. But I got to a company that was doing a revamp of their financial report. And in that situation, we created some VBA code and something that was pulling things together. But what I noticed the most is I really didn't know the expressions. I didn't know what a profit and loss was. I didn't know what cash flow was. I mean, I kind of understood it. I didn't know what kind of report that meant, right? And it's only now when I go back with doing so many different things that I can say now I really am a good trainer because I also know the topics, right? It's not just, oh, you're in accounting or you're in payroll. Well, this will be your favorite tool. And now then if I'm doing, something else, then I'm not even going to show you that tool because you'll never use it, right? And that just became so important. So the way I started is I started as a trainer assistant / trainer, but I think it was sort of the wrong way. Although, it did get me to where I am today, so I can't really say it was catastrophically wrong. But I think that those that remain in that all the time are just bad trainers, and there's lots of that floating around. So those were my beginnings, and then with Power BI, I started with Power BI V1, which I'm guessing no one ever used because that was on SharePoint. And it was actually a Power View library, I think it was called. So you use those. What was Microsoft's Flash? What was that?
Silverlight.
Yeah, so you use Silverlight. And that was and I stuck with it because I knew it was brilliant. I knew it had the potential to be brilliant. And as soon as they threw it off Silverlight, and as soon as they threw it off SharePoint, that really became that. So it's known as Power BI V2, which everyone now just knows as Power BI. And that was really a big thing at that point.
Fine.
Yes. So the second question is advice you give to those starting out. So you say you learned it the wrong way. So if you were to go back in time, how would you learn it now?
How would I learn Excel?
Learn it now. Yes.
Oh man, when I was learning it, it was way different than it is today. Today, I think one of the key things that has changed is the way people get data, not data for analysis, but get data about Excel, get information about Excel. When I was starting out, there were literally 4 blogs out there, at least that I knew of. The search engines weren't so good. Today you can find basically anything you want. At that point, that wasn't the case. But what's also so amazing to me today is the community, the number of people that are sharing their knowledge as I am right now, or as you two guys are actually right now. That is staggering today. So if you set your mind to it, I'm guessing within 2 or 3 weeks, you can have an MVP on the call. I'm guessing you can have an MVP on the call within 2 days, discussing your Excel problems, right? And now you can also learn from the best, but that's financially, I guess, kind of more troublesome. But with the online learning offers that you can get today, right? I know many MVPs, and myself included, have online courses, right? And now you can take those online courses, which to some degree, it's much more customizable than a regular Excel course, right? If you know this, then don't watch that session. If you want to check this out now, just jump to that. If you want to do it at 10 p.m., do it at 10 p.m. So the way knowledge can be, gained today, I really couldn't change that when I was starting out. But if I did it today, I think it would be asking for advice a lot more, because now you can. Now you know people. Now to get to someone that you can literally say, well, he kind of knows Excel. It's easier. It's way easier, and they're far more approachable than they maybe were, back then. If I would make a call from Slovenia to the US, because there were no teams then, right? And if I would make a telephone call, that would cost me millions. So, it's a different world. It's a different stage, and it's far easier today to learn.
Okay. So thank you so much for this
Yeah,
session. And thank you for your
sure.
advice. It was actually great to have you here. Our next
Thank you.
session.
Thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah. Oh, hope you come again next time.
Cool. It's a deal. Maybe live.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be really nice. And we know something will happen if not in Nigeria, but somewhere close by, so that
Yeah, I would love that.
finally step foot here in Africa in a live session. Okay, so thank you to everyone. Thank you to our special guest. Ifeanyi, you wanted to just do a last few statement to let them know of another one happening 1 hour's time.
So in less than an hour time, we have another session. This one is for the Power BI learning community. So today we're going to be talking about Power BI. For those that want to maybe get started with Power BI, like I've seen what Power BI can do. So for those that want to, let's get a quick overview of Power BI. This session will be perfect for you. So I've dropped the links where you can RSVP, and also again the journey link. So it starts in 50 minutes time. So yeah, thank you. And I also dropped the YouTube channel, Gašper's YouTube channel. I think someone asked about it.
And all his contacts that he gave us, I think we dropped them in the chat box too. So please make sure you.
Yeah, so I just typed thanks, so I can drop my email in there. But I'm guessing the best way to reach me would be through LinkedIn. Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn.
Twitter.
I also included the email now. And if you guys later on, when you'll be putting this on YouTube, if you can just include that link to the file.
Yes,
delete.
yes,
Yeah,
I will.
cool.
Okay.
Thank you to everyone. I think all is done. I can end the
Yeah,
session.
take end the session.
Okay,
Yes.
so
So
thank you, everyone. Have a very wonderful month ahead. Happy Workers' Day, everyone.
Yeah, bye.
So, Gašper, please take a rest. Rest very well.
Yeah, I need it.
It's done a lot of travel lately. So, thank you to everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.